Well, hello, folks. I'm sorry. Me and Alphonse are just in the background running our mouths, getting ready for the journey we're going to take here. I welcome everybody here. We're gonna go down many different avenues as always. So, if you have questions, please let us know, and I'm gonna welcome Alphonse. Thank you for coming again.
What's happening, brother?
Hey man, it's good. It's good. We've got a plethora of updates. I'll start with mine, and then I'm going to let Alphonse give his. So Gary and I have officially filed our summons. Filed our complaints. The summons are in. So now I don't have any issue whatsoever sharing with y'all my complaint. Okay, and
Brandon, explain. Here's what I want you to do. Explain that process. In other words, how you filed the complaint and how the whole summons process works.
Okay.
So from start, like if you're doing it from the start.
So in Louisiana, it was different than Mississippi. In Louisiana, the marshals are no longer serving summons. The sheriff is no longer serving summons in Louisiana. So, guys, this used to be the duty of these agents. Okay, so I actually was able, because I'm not a party to the suit that Gary is pushing. I was able to serve the summons. So I went, serve, did my affidavit that service was done, sent it into the court. Now, mind you, for complete service, they had to have the complaint, the summons page from the clerk, right? That they were being summoned.
The clerk created the summons?
Yes. Notice of suit coming in, right? You've got 21 days, right, to answer. Okay. So from the date after service is when the in Louisiana that the count starts. The day of doesn't count; it's the day after. Okay, so for Mississippi, we had to hire a process server, and the reason for that, Mississippi's local rules is that you can't be an out-of-state resident to serve process. You must be an inhabitant of the state of Mississippi. So those are done. And so with that, I'll share the complaints. And I may do that this afternoon. I may not. We'll see how this afternoon goes. 95% of y'all in both the Telegram groups and on YouTube have specific problems. Those specific problems have to do with quasi-judicial courts. If I do not get to sharing the complaint today, I promise each and every one of y'all that I will do a separate video where I share it. I'm going to post it in Telegram. If you're not part of the Telegram yet, you should be. A lot of information. We're growing exponentially. You can't learn this stuff overnight. Go ahead, Alphonse.
No, and that's it's funny how we both ran into the administrative process at the same time. You found it within like a day or so. I'm looking the same thing. I'm reading the same thing. And the way it hit me was I'm just looking at the actions of what these. I'm saying, wait a minute. They're not following any standard legal process here. How are they getting away with this? And I said, I'm looking at Amjur, and it says administrative law. So let me read this. And within the first 3 paragraphs, I understood everything that they were doing. Because what happens is these administrative courts are actually created under the executive branch of government, okay? They're not under the judicial branch. They're under the executive branch of government. And believe it or not, they're given all 3 powers in that under that executive branch. But there's certain powers that they can't impose upon you or I because we have state and federal constitutionally secured rights. They just can't overthrow that. But if you don't object to being in that quasi-judicial administrative court, they will take away trial by jury from you. They will take away due process from you. And guess what? They don't even have to follow the rules of evidence in that court, okay? And they could skirt the Constitution in that court. That court is specifically made for what Brandon and I call inhabitants of the municipality. And what an inhabitant is, it's a member of the corporation. So if you're an employee of that borough or that township, you're an inhabitant, okay? If you have a state license to do business in that state, they can treat your business as an inhabitant of that municipal corporation, okay? That's what those courts are for. Those courts are really set up for agencies working with agencies. Like when I'm fighting the sewer authority, Brandon, I'm looking up on case law, and lo and behold, guess what I see? Aston Township suing the sewer authority. The sewer authority that they created. So they created the sewer authority, and there's like 3 lawsuits up there of them suing each other. But that's all done under that quasi-judicial administrative process. This is not a judicial court where you and I want to be. When we're in a judicial court, you have all your constitutional rights you can invoke. I can invoke trial by jury. I can invoke due process. There's a million things I can invoke in that judicial process that they're going to steamroll me in when I walk into that administrative court process. So that's why we want to. It's not a straw man thing. It's not, anything to do with your birth certificate. They are treating you as one of their, and they're trying to move you under different rules than what you should be moved under. So that's basically my little view on quasi-judicial administrative courts.
Well, before you get too far, and why you said you brought up the straw man deal, and I want to nip this in the bud right now, because I look, it's wonderful how synchronicity works, because you brought it up, and I just want you guys to know I'm going to bring up moot questions or cases of hypothetical issues. This is the American Jurisprudence, May 2022, Section 43 from the court section. Unnecessary decisions by a court are to be avoided. Courts will generally decline to decide moot controversies. A case is moot when the issues presented are no longer live or the parties lack a legally cognizable interest in the outcome. Okay, so let's stop right there. This quantum grammar crap from David Wynn Miller, nobody else on the earth can read his crap. This straw man crap, nobody inside these courts know anything about it. The secret trust, nobody in the courts know anything about it. It is purely hypothetical, and it is an imagination within your own mind. It is what is called an abstract idea. Okay? So in order to push a case through the courts, you have to remember, Caesar's world works on what? It's got to be based in reality. It's got to be concrete. There has to be physical, tangible evidence, not hypotheticals within somebody's mind. A court will also generally refuse to decide a purely hypothetical or abstract question or issue, or one not arising out of the facts involved in the case brought before it. The court lacks discretion to consider the merits of a case over which it is without jurisdiction, and thus, by definition, a jurisdictional ruling may never be made prospective only. And this gets back into that conversation I had with people. All right, your ideas of the world don't necessarily fit into how Caesar's kingdom works. And what I mean by Caesar's kingdom, it's objective only. It's not subjective. Okay, we have our securement of this religious freedom to move forward and think independently of anyone else, and it doesn't have to seem logical to anyone else. That's your protected right. That's a substantive right. But you can't go plead inside a court your fairy tales of hobgoblins in the bushes and all capital letter names over here that have secretly hid you. Nobody can prove it, right? So it's what's called a moot question. So, and here are all the case laws down here that protect, that back all this up. And you can go look up David Wynn Miller's lawsuit, and I've posted it on Telegram. And he wasn't even allowed to put any more cases in because nobody could read it. It was so. One judge said, "This language is so far from the English syntax and grammar that I have no idea what he said." The exact quote from the judge. Okay, so we'll go here. Here's another one. Just remember this one. These are dead ends. Okay, they're just dead ends. Free man on the land philosophy. Hold on, I'll tell you what I got to do right here. I got to turn this down, don't I? How about that? That better? You can hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. I don't hear the echo now. Okay. Persons are not exempt from regulatory statutes on the basis of a claim that they are free men and not 14th Amendment citizens. How? So you're not going to get any relief in a court going and fighting these arbitrary ideas that live only in the confines of your own mind. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the administrative law. now and let Alphonse continue on.
Yeah, you still got somebody. We still got people in the group saying, "Oh, they're connecting your social security number to the straw man they invite to the court." No, stop with that stuff. There's nobody coming into court to say, "I own Mr. Sibley's birth certificate, and I now have control over his account." I'm over. It's never come up in any court case I've ever seen. My paperwork's been used in thousands of cases, different things. I've never heard anyone come back, and I've responded to multiple hundreds of lawyers' documents. Not once did any argument about any security account or trust account. So it's never come up. So get away from it and get away from the people teaching you that crap. It's garbage. Leave it alone. That's not how you win. It's not how you beat these people. You beat them with basic logic and the rules. Hey, here's the rule. Here's what it says. Why aren't you following it? Because if they're not going to follow it, eventually when you move that case up through the chain, there's going to be an adult that sees this, and they're going to know exactly what you're doing. And eventually that person that didn't want to follow that rule earlier is going to have to explain why he didn't follow the rule. And it's going to come back on him. So get away from this, like he said, hobgoblin in the bushes stuff. It's all nonsense. And it frustrates me because I've been doing this for over a year on Telegram now, and I still get these people coming in my group talking about this straw man stuff. Enough.
And look, we'll just go straight to the reality. The taxpayer identification number is a sole proprietorship employee identification number assigned to you by the IRS. Okay. The Department of Treasury sends it out, and it's your employee identification number. That's exactly what the Social Security number is for. And when you rebut the IRS claims and all that crap that goes in the IRS deal, there's nothing they can do about it. That's why it's just a useless, a fruitless endeavor to go down that rabbit hole. Okay, so let's start here. So many of you have issues with administrative quasi-judicial courts. You go in there, you walk in, and they don't follow the rules of evidence. They don't follow the rules of civil procedure. They don't follow anything. There's no discovery. They just railroad through everything. Okay, so let's just read out of American jurisprudence, and then what I'll do is I'll pull up maybe the charter of a city. And listen, if you have the city moving against you, you need to go read their charter. Most likely inside their charter is their rules of evidence. Say for Texas, okay, after 4 months of helping this lady, I finally found the rules of evidence for quasi-judicial courts and how to object to get a jury trial. Right, it's right there, but nobody knew to go look inside the Administrative Procedure Act of Texas. I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I found all this stuff right here. And it's crazy because here, and I'll just do this. I'll just do this before we start. All right. So everybody's looking for certain ideas. What's the definition of person? And each of you can go verify this if you want. This is Louisiana Revised Statutes, Chapter 49, 951. This is the codification of the Louisiana Administrative Procedure Act of 1954. Okay, so this regulates all departments of the state who are acting in administrative function. Okay, there's two roles of government. Let's talk about this because this is a huge issue. Governmental functions and proprietary functions. Okay, all right. When it operates in a proprietary function, it is not immune from lawsuit. It is operating for profit. Okay, that's just the simplest form of it. But you need to go look into these things. So in all of Louisiana's code, administrative code, I never found the actual definition of person until I went tearing apart the wildlife and fisheries. And lo and behold, wildlife and fisheries, the first article, power and authority, it was pulled from the Louisiana Administrative Procedure Act. I was like, well, hold up. I've never seen that before. Let's go look this up. And here we are, the first chapter of it, the definitions. Person means any individual, partnership, corporation, association, governmental subdivision, or public or private organization of any character other than an agency, except that an agency is a person for the purpose of appealing an administrative ruling in a disciplinary action brought pursuant to Title 37 of the Louisiana Revised Statutes of 1950, prior to the final adjudication of such disciplinary action. So with that, I want to stop and show people something else. And let me blow this up. So I don't want people to just guess anymore. We're going to learn how to read a statute. How you like that, Alphonse?
Yeah, so, I mean, here's one thing that throws them off, that term individual, okay? Here's what an individual is. It's a single person, okay? So even though, think about like McDonald's, you have a corporation with tens of thousands of employees, okay? But they're considered as a single entity, as a person, okay? An individual would be like Joe the plumber that went to the state and then registered a business license with the state, and he's one employee, okay? Joe the plumber is an individual, okay? He's not a corporation, most likely. He's probably operating, like you said, a sole proprietorship or something, that's probably how he's working. So that's what an individual is. People get confused and think, well, gee, that must be me, individual. And think about that list. Remember in school you had sets and like things had to be put in the set? Well, everything after individual, think about it this way. Everything that Brandon read after individual is what's called a legal entity. It's a registered legal entity with the state, okay? Registered legal entities operate by statute and charter, basically. This is where their rights and duties and obligations come from. They come from statutes and they come from their charter, okay? Now, you and I, if we were an individual, we're different than everything else in that list because everything in that list works by statute and charter. Brandon and I don't get our rights from statutes and charters. We have inherent natural God-given rights that are secured by the Constitution. So you can't put us in that list with like 7 other things that operate by statute, and we operate by Constitution. Well, that's where our protections are. So you can't put an unlike thing like us in that list. That's why an individual cannot be a man or woman. It must be a legal entity, most likely having a license from the state and doing business within the state. That's what the definition of a person is. It's a legal entity registered with the state, doing business in the state. That's as clear cut as what I can tell you is what a person is.
That's right. So what we're going to do, I'm going to use the Health Defense Freedom Defense Fund's injunctive relief against Joe Biden and the United States government, which was granted in by really it's a group of people. There was 3 people who had standing in this, but this lady's out of Iowa, and there's a group of people up there that run the Health Freedom Defense Fund. They have 18 current cases going. They've got the injunction for the CDC, and in this particular injunction, they didn't even get outside the administrative code of the CDC and its limitations of authorities. But the beautiful thing inside this particular case is how the courts read the statutes. Okay, and for many years, up until probably the last 6 months, I didn't correctly understand. I understood that an individual couldn't be what it is, but let's see what the courts read it as. The rules of statutory construction. All right, statutes, dictionaries. To aid in statutory interpretation inquiry, dictionaries provide only a what? Helpful starting point. Statutory construction is a search for ordinary, contemporary meaning of terms in their context. Okay. When interpreting a statute, words that can have more than one meaning are given content by their what? Surroundings. Okay. All right. Let's keep on going here. I know I put some more in yellow here. I guess I didn't. Brandon, did I not finish it? But anyway, let's go back up to the statutory construction. Okay, so let's go back to that. I guess I stopped somewhere. All right. Plain language. Would determine the meaning of a statutory provision, the court looks first to its language, given the words used their ordinary meaning. If a term goes undefined in the statute, courts give the term its ordinary meaning. When interpreting a statute, a word may or may not extend to the outer limits of its definitional possibilities. Whether it does depends on reading the whole statutory text. When interpreting a statute, words that can have more than one meaning are given content by their surroundings. So we'll go to 14. To aid in this statutory, that's why I love Westlaw. You saw what it allows you to do. Okay, To aid in the statutory interpretation, inquiry dictionaries provide only a helpful starting point. And what you'll see here is that the context in the context individual is defined by the words that follow it. So if it's a corporation, joint stock company, organization, everything else behind that word, then it can only be one thing and one thing only: a sole proprietorship. That's it. It cannot be the living, breathing man or woman, because it would delegate everyone to involuntary slave status. It would be a violation of your rights to substantive due process.
And why wouldn't they just say everyone in the statute? Instead of breaking it down, why wouldn't they just say every man and woman, every corporation? We're done.
Well, yeah.
Every man, woman, and corporation. 3 words. But they specify. There's a reason they're doing that.
No, and so if you go read the criminal statutes, what does it say? All persons. It does not delegate. It does not deviate. It says all persons, period. Louisiana's does anyway. It doesn't list out anything. It says all persons, no matter what. I think it says incorporated or unincorporated. It doesn't matter. All persons are bound by the criminal statutes of Louisiana because we're a civil law state. And you have to understand that now. We're a civil law state. So, but the common law still can be used here too. Is something I found pretty cool. So let's go back to the administrative law and start reading from it and help some people out. Administrative law is concerned with the legal problems arising out of the existence of agencies which combine in a single entity. Back up. Where's the separations of powers? Legislative, executive, and judicial powers, which are traditionally kept separate. There's only one reason why you would intertwine all this, and that is to override the rights enumerated in the Constitution. It is also generally concerned with the problems of administrative regulation. All right, he who creates controls. So all creatures of statute are bound by the statute. That means if you go call up the secretary of your state, you want to register a business and you want to get a license, you are now under the direct control and authority of the state. They have given you the license. Okay. That is their administrative function. Somehow that administrative function has made it all the way out to mining your property, right? And they are restricting all the fundamental rights that we have. Go ahead, Alphonse.
No, that's really what it is. It's if you read what a creature of the state is, they actually use the term creature of the state. It means a creation of the state. And there's a term in there that'll say the absolute authority power over the creature is defined. The creature becomes a resident of the state, right? An inhabitant of the state. So here's what I got people confused. They'll call you resident and stuff, like whether they're citations or whatever, local code guys. A resident basically is identical to an inhabitant, okay? They are one and the same. They're just a different term. It basically means a member of the corporation. You need to understand this is administrative law. Think about this now. Only the state legislature, which is a combination of the Congress and the Senate, which they call the Assembly put together, only they can make laws. They can write laws. And Brandon, can't delegate powers to somebody else, can you? Once you're delegating lawmaking power, you can't delegate it to somebody else, could you? No. So they can delegate certain powers to the municipalities. They could delegate administrative law powers to them, basically saying, hey, to run your little municipal corporation, you can, in a way, act like a quasi-judicial administrative law process here. You can pass your own ordinances and your own resolutions to tax and to regulate members of your corporation and the businesses within your boundary as a municipality. See, that charter allows them to do 2 things, that municipality. They're designated a territory. They give them, they draw invisible lines around an area and say, this is the Township of Aston's territory. That allows the Township of Aston to collect business taxes from McDonald's, Taco Bell, whoever's doing business within their area, they can collect taxes from. And for that privilege of collecting taxes, they've actually agreed to provide services to the people. Over the years, they've got you and I to believe that we're supposed to be responsible for paying for these services. That's not how it was established. That's not how it's actually set up now. It's just how it's being enforced. And it's being enforced like that because we've all become dumbed down and we don't have rights here right now. You only have rights if you understand what your rights are and how to invoke them. Unless you can do that, you don't have any rights. It's like I said, it's like having a jet fighter in your driveway, and you can't even get in the cockpit of it. Yeah, I got rights. They're sitting out there in the driveway. I don't know how to use them, then you don't have them. If you don't know how to invoke them and how to use them, you don't have them. So all your local municipalities you're dealing with, they're operating, as Brandon's telling you, under administrative law. They're not operating under judicial law. They're administrative law agencies. And they're pulling you into that agency by calling you an inhabitant, a resident, a member of their corporation. We call it like the magic trick, basically, that they're pulling on you. They're with your mind, pulling you into an administrative court, and you don't know the difference that you're not in a judicial court here. You're in an administrative court. So,
well, we can do this too. Let's take this back to your hearing yesterday. Let's go down this rabbit hole. All right, and I'm dealing with it too, in somebody that I'm helping. Get just a summons and one piece of paper. It's not a complaint. It is not a complaint. It doesn't fit everything of a complaint. It has nothing to do with a complaint. It just says you owe.
Either got to be civil or criminal. It's got to be one or the other. And in each civil, look in your state's civil procedures and your criminal procedures, and there are exact elements of what's got to be on that civil complaint and what's got to be on that criminal complaint. What Brandon's talking about with that letter she's got or wherever that document is, it's missing all kinds of key elements. So it's neither civil nor criminal. So we don't know what it is. Right.
And so, you start and wonderfully started doing discovery and come to find out when you start doing this, you listen, folks, by our system of American jurisprudence, you have the right to face your accuser. Do you understand that? That means somebody's made a claim against you. You get to have your day in court and you get to present evidence to the fact. Okay. All right. We have constitutional law, which is the original limitation. Okay. And then everything else is underneath that. All right. That's just the order. The supreme law of the land is the Constitution of the United States. All treaties, everything else is underneath that. All right. Well, when I started helping this young lady and started entering stuff in the record like a regular civil proceeding, things started popping out that they weren't operating. So I had to go to the administrator and look, we'll do like this. Let me do this. Let me pull up the Administrative Procedure Act of Louisiana.
And Artie's in our little group here. Artie, to answer your question, Artie, no, they can't. My local township can't do anything on my property. They have no ownership or interest or taxable interest in my property. Okay, that's a fact of law. So they have no authority to do anything with my property. To paint my property black, they can't tell me I can't. Okay, if I want to let my grass grow 8 feet tall, it's none of their business. If somebody's got a problem with something, they've got to sue me in court and bring a valid cause of action against me and plead how my property or what I'm doing is causing them harm or damage. Your township, they can create ordinances and resolutions. They can only use them on inhabitants, which are members of the corporation, and any businesses that are in contract with them doing business in their area, they can impose their ordinances and resolutions upon. Listen, Artie, I have already proved through 2 townships where I live and where I got rental properties that they can't impose their ordinances upon me. I've been 3 years. I've knocked them on the rear end every time they've gotten in my face. So no, they have no recourse to come at me. If they've got a cause against me, they better sue me. And me and Brandon were just talking about before we came on, 1037A, Pennsylvania, that states, if any action, you read it because you can see it.
If any action is not commenced by a complaint, the protho notary, upon precipice of the defendant, shall enter a rule upon the plaintiff to file a complaint. If a complaint is not filed within 20 days after service of the rule, the protho notary, upon precipice of the defendant, shall enter a judgment of non-pros.
Now, me and Brandon were just talking about what a complaint is. There's either civil complaints or criminal complaints, and each one of them have specific elements of what they must have, or they're not complaints. That document that Brandon was talking about, this woman got, guess what? That's not a complaint. It doesn't mean a civil complaint, doesn't mean a criminal complaint. So in this instance, if she was in Pennsylvania, I could do a precipice to the notary, to the prothonotary, telling her, serve them that rule. And what that rule tells them is they've got to sue me within 20 days.